The phrase "if you can't be a good example, you'll just have to serve as a horrible warning" is one of those deceptively simple statements that, upon closer examination, reveal layers of truth about human behavior, morality, consequence, and social learning. It encapsulates the reality that every action, intentional or not, has an impact, and that impact can either be one that others seek to emulate or one that others actively avoid. It is a reflection of the fundamental duality of human experience, the aspiration toward virtue and the cautionary tales that arise when virtue is ignored. This saying forces us to consider the implications of our choices, the ripple effects of our mistakes, and the ways in which individuals serve as examples, for better or worse, in shaping societal values and behaviors. At its core, this statement speaks to the nature of human learning. Throughout history, societies have relied on both positive role models and cautionary tales to educate, guide, and instill norms. Children, from an early age, are conditioned to understand right and wrong not just through explicit instruction but through observation of others. When we see someone achieving great things through hard work, kindness, and discipline, we are inspired to follow their path. Conversely, when we witness someone making catastrophic mistakes or suffering consequences for poor decisions, we internalize that information as a warning of what to avoid. The human mind is wired to recognize patterns and draw lessons from them. Evolutionarily, this was a survival mechanism. Watching another person succumb to danger taught early humans what threats to steer clear of. This mechanism still operates today, shaping our decisions through both admiration and caution. The phrase also highlights the inevitability of influence. Whether one intends to or not, they become a lesson for others. Every person, through their successes or failures, contributes to the collective pool of human wisdom. History is filled with figures who have served as paragons of virtue: Mahatma Gandhi, Martin Luther King Jr., Mother Teresa, people whose lives inspire generations to strive for justice, compassion, and resilience. But history is equally populated by those who serve as stark warnings: dictators whose greed and brutality led to ruin, leaders whose corruption toppled civilizations, individuals whose recklessness resulted in disaster. These figures are remembered not just for what they did, but for what they represent. Their legacies become cautionary roadmaps, deterring others from repeating the same errors. On a personal level, this phrase holds profound relevance in everyday life. Each of us, in our interactions and choices, wields the power to influence others. A teacher who mentors students with dedication and integrity sets a good example, while one who neglects their duty and mistreats students becomes a cautionary tale of what an educator should not be. A leader who governs with fairness and wisdom is admired, while one who abuses power serves as a grim reminder of the consequences of tyranny. Even in the realm of personal relationships, one can either model healthy, respectful behavior or demonstrate the pitfalls of selfishness and neglect. The impact of one's actions ripples outward, shaping not only their own legacy but also the behavior of those who observe them. The idea that people can serve as warnings also ties into the broader theme of accountability. In a world that often glorifies success, there is an equally important place for failure as a teaching tool. Stories of those who failed due to arrogance, hubris, dishonesty, or recklessness remind society that actions have consequences. Literature, mythology, and fables are replete with such figures. In Greek mythology, Icarus ignored warnings and flew too close to the sun, leading to his downfall, a lesson in hubris and the dangers of overreaching. In real life, financial collapses, political scandals, and public downfalls all serve as reminders of what happens when ethical boundaries are crossed. The phrase underscores the fact that while triumphs are celebrated, failures are not simply forgotten, they become instructive, ensuring that future generations can learn from past mistakes. From a psychological standpoint, the concept behind this phrase also relates to cognitive biases and how people process information. Humans tend to learn more effectively from negative examples than positive ones. Studies in psychology suggest that negative experiences imprint on the brain more strongly than positive ones, a phenomenon known as negativity bias. This is why people are often more likely to remember a failed venture, a disastrous decision, or a tragic downfall than they are to recall a series of minor successes. Fear, caution, and loss aversion are powerful motivators, which is why people are often more impacted by horror stories of financial ruin, relationship breakdowns, or professional missteps than by tales of steady, uneventful success. The mind reacts more strongly to things that go wrong because it perceives them as threats to be avoided. On a societal level, the phrase holds significance in shaping culture and norms. Laws, regulations, and ethical standards are often formed in response to those who have served as horrible warnings. Scandals, tragedies, and systemic failures often act as catalysts for change. Workplace safety laws exist because of past industrial disasters. Consumer protections are in place because of fraud and exploitation that came before them. Medical advancements are often the result of past failures in public health. Society progresses not just by celebrating its achievements but by recognizing and correcting its failures. The phrase reminds us that even the worst examples can have value by illuminating paths to improvement. There is also an element of personal reflection embedded in this statement. It forces individuals to ask themselves a crucial question: which role do I play? Am I serving as a good example, one that others look to for guidance, inspiration, and positive influence? Or am I making choices that will serve only as a warning to others of what not to do? The phrase carries a subtle but powerful challenge: to take responsibility for one's actions, to strive for integrity, and to recognize that our impact extends far beyond our immediate experience. Whether through personal conduct, leadership, parenting, or professional ethics, each person has the capacity to leave behind a lesson for others. This is not just about avoiding mistakes but about actively choosing to be the kind of example that betters the world rather than simply avoiding becoming a cautionary tale. In the realm of education, mentorship, and leadership, this concept is particularly relevant. Leaders, whether in politics, business, or personal influence, have the opportunity to set standards that will be followed for generations. Those who act with wisdom, humility, and responsibility become models of success. Those who act with recklessness and dishonesty serve as cautionary figures whose stories are told in warning. Teachers who inspire create legacies of knowledge and passion. Teachers who fail their students become reminders of the consequences of neglect. Parents who nurture and guide their children shape future generations in a positive way. Parents who fail in their duties serve as examples of the importance of responsibility. Ultimately, the phrase encapsulates a universal truth about human existence: every person leaves behind a story. That story will either be one of inspiration or one of caution. The phrase carries an undeniable weight, forcing us to consider how we wish to be remembered and what lessons we wish to impart to those who follow. It is a call to self-awareness, a reminder that every action contributes to the broader narrative of human experience. It underscores the reality that even in failure, there is value, if not as an example of what to do, then as a stark warning of what to avoid. Whether one chooses to be an example of excellence or a case study in folly is ultimately a matter of personal choice, but the inescapable truth remains: every life, in some way, serves as a lesson to others.